If you have any questions, you can message me. I'll be answering them. I hope all of you can see the poll. I hope all of you are done. So I'll move on to the scoring part of this. So it's on your screen. For the first 3 statements, you can go ahead and add your scores directly. But for the fourth one, it's on your screen. You can see that a 7 means you score yourself 1, a 6 means you score yourself 2, and likewise. And then you find the sum of all your 4 scores and divide it by 4. Yeah, it's much simpler than the primary maths here in Singapore. I'm sure all of you are doing it. I hope you're ready with your scores. So 5.6 is the median score. So if you have scored higher than 5.6, that means you are happier than the average population. And then if your score is below 5.6, that shows that you are less happier than the average. Okay, now that you're equipped with your score, I would ask you another question. And that is, when were you the happiest? Recall an incident, turn a few pages of your life, and stop at that page where you feel that you are the happiest. You can type in your answers. Very interesting answers. Let me wait a couple more minutes and see if anyone has to add to this list. Traveling, payday, when I've accomplished what I wanted. Very practical answers. A few more maybe. When I acknowledge happiness, that's deep. So that brings me to my next question. How long did it last? Whatever was your reason for happiness, how long did it last? How long did it make you happy? Few months. That's great. Very short-lived. Any more answers to come? Anyone who had An everlasting happiness? A few months, lasted a few weeks. Good. Depends. It may last until I fail the next achievement. Nice answers. Thanks for being such a lovely audience today. So as you can see, that of this event had a spectrum, a time of that gave you happiness. So what exactly is this? So this is something which is very common. We all face it. And it is called hedonic adaptation or hedonic treadmill. So when something happens, when something good happens, if you see on the screen and the graph, so there is time and happiness. So when something good happens, what happens is your level of happiness increases. The dotted line is your base level of happiness. That is how naturally, normally on any given day, how happy you are. So something good like you bought a dress, you got a promotion, you got into your favorite college, or you were proposed to. So that acts like a happiness boost to you, and you really feel happy. But over time, you get adapted to that happiness. You are no longer surprised, or you don't no longer feel that spark of happiness. You again come back to your base level. Luckily, on the other hand, if something bad happens, you are also able to adapt to it. It's not that you will always be unhappy if something bad happens to you. You are able to come back and reach your normal level of happiness. But interestingly, what happens is we adapt better or quicker or faster to the good events in our life than the bad events. Let me give you an example. So you're attending a party and you're really prettily dressed, you're looking your best, and you're very happy to attend it. Someone comes up to you and says like, "Oh, you look lovely. I love the dress." Or maybe, uh, "Oh, are you going to the gym frequently because you look very toned?" And it's like popping a happiness pill. It just makes you happy. It just makes you light up. It just makes you feel so good about yourself. And you go about the party feeling very happy, and you come back home and you still have a smile. And even if your children were naughty, you don't mind. You're very light with them, or maybe it's just so that you're in a happy state of mind. It will the next day, when next morning when you wake up, you still feel good about it, and maybe the next day. But after that, you just get adjusted to that. It no longer makes you feel that good. But whereas you take an example where you go to a party and someone comes up to you and says like, "Ah, you have put on weight. This dress looks a bit not so good on you." Or, "Ah, you had the time to put on a lot of makeup today." What happens to you? You come back home unhappy. You are still picking on people for something very simple. You come back and you might not like anything, and then you go back to sleep. Next morning, you wake up and you're still thinking about it. You're still looking at the mirror and you're asking yourself, "Did I really put on weight? Oh, was my makeup too loud?" And this keeps on. It's not the day after or the day after that. It stays on you for a bit longer until you have hit the gym and you feel that shame and guilt of not hitting the gym has been pushed off. Or the next time you go to a party and next time you're appreciated, it lingers on for a longer period of time with us. So we are good at adjusting to the good things in our life, whereas we linger on to the bad things on our life. That's one probable reason why we are more unhappy than happy. So if I see to these two graphs, These are two major events in our lives. So one is marriage, and the other I'll be talking about is birth of a child. So if I see onto this, year zero is the year that you're getting married, and there is a boost in happiness, both in the male and in the female chart. And then after year one and year two, you see that there is a dip in happiness. And eventually you reach your base level of happiness. That is where you had started. Similarly, in case of birth of your child, so you see in the male, you see that year zero is the birth of the child, year minus one is a year before the child is born. And there has been a little dip. Why? Because maybe it's a lot that actually when men are not pregnant, they at times feel very insecure, or they feel they are not being able to fully understand their wife. Whereas in the case of the female, we see that there has been a constant increase in happiness from their base level. They're excited about the birth of the child. Then again, I'm not generalizing it, but in most cases, if you're having a healthy child, if you're not having any complications, then this is what it is. But if you're having any complications, sure, you'll be having a different feeling about it. However, this is a very typical case that we're talking about. And we see that year one, that is 1 year after the child is born, there's a dip in happiness. So even though you were happy about the childbirth and there was a new purpose, a new meaning in your life, but now you see that it doesn't last forever. You get adjusted to it and the reality hits you. And then again in year five, that is when your child is almost is 5 year old, you see again that there is a trend towards an increase in your happiness. Maybe because your child is more independent now, they are going to school, and you have more time for yourself. So if we get adjusted to every possible event in our life, is it ever possible to have happiness that we feel every day? Is there a possibility that there is a sense of novelty, a sense of surprise, a sense of good feeling in our day to day life? The answer is yes, there is. But it's not easy. It's not about uh, just knowing it or doing it. No. Like in everything else, it's about consistency. We have to practice the strategies every day consciously to help us. So, this part, in this section of the webinar, I will be talking about the strategies that you can follow in your day to day life to ensure a life that is fulfilling, that makes you happy, and gives you hope and optimism. The first is avoid social comparison. Social comparison is inevitable. We always tend to indulge in it. It could be because of physical appearance. It could be because of success in relationship. If someone we see having a better relationship than us, at times we're envious. It could be because of financial status, which is very easy to measure. Whether your friend or your colleague has a bigger car, bigger paycheck, or a bigger home, it's very easy to compare and feel miserable about your life. It could be about educational achievements. If your friend is going for a further study or is having a better degree, it definitely triggers a sense of not so feel good about ourselves. It hurts our self esteem. And the other is popularity. So if someone is more popular than us, it is definitely calls for us to be envious, and we don't feel good about it. We always feel miserable about our own life. So if we are comparing ourselves to Mark Zuckerberg or Anthony Tan, then I would say that that's inspiration. That you're looking up to something and you're trying to figure out how to reach there. But unfortunately, we always end up comparing ourselves to our siblings, cousins, classmates, colleagues, and friends. And we feel miserable. And we feel like there is a sense of equality, like we all are same. We started from a similar place, we share a lot of common things. Then why is it that they are doing better and not me? Or else we feel that we have given same effort, but the rewards are not the same, and that makes us feel that life has not been fair to us. There's a sense of injustice done to us. Or else we have a misconception that we started from the same point. Just because you go to the same school, or you have went to the same college, or you live in the same locality, you feel that we all had the same starting point. Or maybe because it's your brother or your cousin who had the same family, or the support was same, and you feel that you should have also achieved what they have achieved. Or else it could be simply a sense of entitlement, that I don't want to talk about why I should have it. It's just that I should have it what they have. I should be as well off, or I should be having as good a life as they have it. But doing that, we always end up feeling miserable or very down. We have negative emotions about ourselves. Our self worth goes down considerably, or we have negative self image. So now we have to stop and reflect. First of all, understand that however you feel that their lives are similar to yours, it isn't. Each one of us are unique, and our lives are unique. So maybe a friend who lived with you in the same HDB, went to the same school, you feel that you both are very similar. But there is one cousin this friend has who is an investment banker. He comes back and meets in some social gathering, and he talks about his achievement, and he talks how he pursued it and what happened to his life, and that really influences the life of this person, and that creates that small change creates a big change in both of your life over the time. So you have to acknowledge that all of us go through different things in life, even though apparently it may seem that we're having the same life, but it isn't. Even if it is your brother, even if it's your own sibling, but still, your life is as unique as you are. And the next is identify situations or events that can trigger negative emotions in you. Might be there is one person in that social gathering that you go to who always makes you feel horrible. And there's this one person you know will talk about certain things which will not make you happy. Or there are certain events that you know if you attend it, you always come back unhappy. So try to avoid if you can. But if it is unavoidable, if you cannot avoid it, maybe it's your colleague and you always go out in a group and you cannot avoid the situation, then be mentally prepared for it. You be aware that this is what happens every time, and this time also will not be an exception. But I choose to react differently. I choose to be aware that this happens with me every time, and this time I won't let that happen to me. The next activity is okay, so there is one more I would like to talk about. This is my professor had once said this to me, that wish for something because you want it, not because someone else has it. And it had a very meaningful impact in my life. And so every time I wish for something, I really ask myself that is it because of certain social status that it has? Is it because it is something that is desired? Is it because something that people around me want? Or is it something that I feel happy to, I feel connected to, I feel I need it in my life? And I think you can also do this exercise in your life, and you will see that you'll be better at understanding what are the things that give you happiness and what doesn't. The next is choosing a flow activity. So, what is flow activity? It is an activity in which, when you're engaged in it, when you are involved in it, you lose the sense of time. It is so engrossing that something so important as time also loses its meaning. It could be anything. It could be going for a walk. It could be listening to music. It could be gardening. It could be going to the gym. It could be doing yoga. It could be coding. So, drawing, painting, you choose. But there should be certain things in this activity that are, it should have an element of challenge. It should not be a leisure activity where you just sit back, watch your phone, or watch a series, drama. That won't do, because that doesn't have any challenge. That doesn't challenge you in any way. That always makes you feel happy at that moment, but later you feel shame and guilt about wasting that time. But when you are involved in a flow activity, you might not be feeling very happy doing it at that point of time, but once it's completed, it will give you a sense of achievement. It will give you a sense of happiness. Next, it should be enjoyable. Don't indulge into something that you don't find nice, but you do it because your friend wants to do it. That is not what is a flow activity. Or it's interesting for you. It aligns with your value system. Each one of us have an idea of what makes us happy and what doesn't. What are the activities we want to engage in? So make sure that you pick one from that list. It should build a skill. It should give you a sense of achievement, and it should require focus. So just as I said, just scrolling down up and down your screen, just going to your Facebook page or your Instagram page, it's not wrong. It's not wrong, but that cannot be a flow activity. Flow activity has to be something that really needs you to focus. And you will see, definitely, it is a sure way. At least it works for me, and I'm sure research says that it is one of the most efficient way of getting happiness out of your life. Now the question is, how do you find your flow activity? So you could do is, like, you can choose 3 times of the day, maybe 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 6 p.m., and 10 p.m. And you keep a list of what you do during that time, who you are with, and how are you feeling. So that will give you an idea about what. So if you can figure out that at 10 a.m. I read book and that makes me happy. So you know the answer, that that is your flow activity. Or maybe you see that 2 p.m. I cook for my son and that makes me happy. So that is your, at 6 p.m. you realize that I sit in front of the computer and I finish a project, or I do a coding, or I play a certain game that enhances my, maybe it's a quiz game, or it's a building word game that makes you happy, then that is your flow activity. Try it for yourself and see. The next is, this is another of my favorite, that's called savoring life. Enjoy every bit of your life, every experience that you have, try to extract the maximum from it. I think one of the reasons that right now we need to do is, our choices are limited during this pandemic. And what we have to do is, we have to make the maximum out of it. So if it's a simple thing like spending time with your son or your daughter doing an activity, or maybe meeting with your colleague from office with whom you share a drink, or if you're trying to go to the gym and meet and work out, or if it is not possible at all, then just going out for a walk. Right now, I know with the current restrictions, maybe going out for a walk, spending some time in the balcony, sipping that morning coffee without anyone disturbing you, or that evening coffee with sitting with someone whom you love spending time with. So enjoy that experience and keep a note of everything. How it made you feel, what was going on in your mind, what were, like, it could be something as simple as the words that your friend spoke to you and how that made you feel. So next time, when you're not so happy, when you are feeling down, remember that incident, remember that event, and it will be a reserve for happiness from where you can draw. The next is about nurturing social relationships. I would say if you have to invest in something, do invest in relationships. It is one of the surest thing to give you happiness. Definitely, it's you have to understand that when I talk about a relationship, it's about something that is nurturing to you, it is something that is comforting to you, that is supporting for you. It's not something that is toxic or makes you feel bad. If you are able to find a relationship that makes you feel good about yourself, learn to keep it. One of the important thing is try to understand the other person as well. A good relationship doesn't mean that you don't fight or you don't have difference of opinion, but it is about understanding the other person. It's about accepting the different views that the person has, and yet you find reason to be with that person. Another is staying in touch. If don't expect someone that if you don't stay in touch with them, if you don't text them or talk to them or you don't remember them, then they will realize that you value them. It is not possible. So if you want them to know that you value this relationship, you have to show it. And then strengthen it. Try to do something positive together. Try to have a honest talk with each other. Build that trust where the other person can trust you. That if there is anything, if there is a need, that person can depend on you. And it has to be vice versa. You also have to have that faith in that person. So choose your relationship wisely. But if you know that is the one for you, invest in it wholeheartedly. Also express your appreciation and affection. It's very important that you let the other person know what effect that person has in your life. At times, we just take the other person for granted and we are not able to express ourselves to them. But it is very important that you have to understand the other person needs to be feel loved just as much as you do. The next is about being grateful. So, grateful is not only about saying thank you, it is much more than that. And research shows that a person who is by nature more grateful or who practices gratefulness is definitely more happier than the others. Why is that so? Because the first reason is when you're being grateful, you're acknowledging the good thing in your life. Most often, we don't even realize that there are so many good things in our life. But when we sit to show our gratitude, it is for the first time we realize that not everything is bad in our life. There are so many good things that we just take for granted. We don't even realize that these are so important in our day to day life. You could either do it by expressing to the other person, or you could keep a gratitude journal where you write what are the things that you're grateful for. You choose how many times in a week you want to do. For some, it might work every day. For some, it might work 3 times a day or 4 times a week. So you decide what works for you and do try to be consistent about it. So I'll just quickly have another poll. What do you think is the best method to express gratitude? Is it by writing a letter, sending a text message, directly going up to the person and showing your appreciation, or is it by via social media? Yeah. Well, research shows one of the most effective way is by telling the person directly. Exactly. Yes. So at times, what happens is when we are expressing ourselves and in a true way, in being honest, in being really choosing our words wisely, not just something very superficial, but something that the person can relate to, it really increases the effect of gratitudeness, both to you and to the person that you're showing your gratitude. The next is you have to know what is your goal. Have a clear idea about what is your goal. It is so important that we forget to commit to our goals. So choose one or two or three goals at the max, three goals that you can really commit yourself, you can really devote yourself to. Have a very clear path of how to achieve it. What is your incentive in achieving those goals? The why you want to pursue that goal is the reason that will give you the happiness. So if you really want to pursue a goal, if you want to know that if that specific thing is right for you or not, sit back and ask why you want to pursue that. Once you know the answer to it, go ahead, create a realistic and achievable path to attain that goal and work hard for it. The reward is amazing. It's not only that you will be successful, but it will give you a boost in your happiness, a boost in your self esteem that is going to stay with you for a very long time. The next is creating coping strategies. So, when I talk about coping strategies, what I'm talking about is the ability to bounce back. We are always having certain issues in our life, which is inevitable in our life. But we need to know how to get back at life and not get down with the negativity. So, one could be a problem focused coping, and the other is emotion focused coping. When I'm talking about problem focused coping, and I'm talking about a specific concrete event in your life, it could be an illness that you're diagnosed with, it could be a divorce, it could be a loss of your partner, something very specific, losing a job that is going on in your life, and how to deal with it. So, first is that you have to have step by step process. Create a clear steps of how you're going to work around the problem. If needed, consult with people who have sound knowledge about it, who are professionals, and who can help you, and also have a support system, either from your friends or family, to whom you can go to. If it's an emotion focused coping, if you're having an overwhelming sense of anger, or if you're feeling extremely embarrassed, if you feel like you're a failure, during those moments when it's really taking over you, what you need to do is you have to switch yourself to something that makes you feel positive. If you're really upset with an incident and something, maybe you did a work and you were not recognized for it, someone else took the credit of your work and you're feeling miserable about it, it could be in your office or it could be in your home, and you feel like bursting out, just switch over. Either call to a friend whom you can talk to about it, or listen to music. If you want, you can go out, take a walk, and just forget about it, or at least try to push it somewhere behind you and enjoying something. You can engage in a flow activity. But create a path for yourself that you will follow when there is a crisis. Once you're prepared, it will not make you feel as helpless. Because when we're unhappy, the one thing is that we feel helpless, we feel very lonely. So, in order to protect ourselves, it is always useful to have this coping strategies at hand. The next is act of kindness. I know it may sound very cliche, but trust me, one of the reasons why we are happy is when we are in a happy environment. And kindness is one thing that really creates a ripple effect where you show kindness to someone, it changes their life, it touches their life, it makes them feel positive, they pass on to someone. And in that way, it creates an environment of positivity around you. It not only makes you feel good about yourself, but it also helps you build a solid social connection where you can build a relationship that you can trust and bank on. Another way of doing is having a kindness journal. That also serves a purpose of reminding you that life has been kind to you and there is more reasons for you to be happy than to be unhappy. So there are two things to it. One is that you have to know how to do it and when to do it. Just don't like every day I walk out of my house and I decide that, oh, today I have to do a act of kindness. And if I'm not able to do, I'm unhappy. No. Don't make it a chore. Then it will lose its element of novelty or surprise. But make it spontaneous. Do it when the time is right. Do it when you feel that this is the this is the right opportunity to show your kindness. And I'm sure the effect that you will get, the reward that you will get, is going to last with you much longer than from any material thing that you have done for yourself. The next is about cultivating optimism. So when I talk about cultivating optimism, what I'm talking is about a sense of hopefulness. There will be events, there will be incidents in our life that will make us feel down. But how to fight back, how to have a sense of hope, how to have a sense of control over our life. So, this is a very interesting activity where you have to sit in a place and take 15 to 30 minutes to think about and write down what you expect in your life to be a few years from now. So, don't think about the obstacles, just imagine that anything and everything is possible in your life, then what your life is going to be in the next 5 years. And that will help you understand what you are looking for. What is your real search? What is the thing that really makes you happy? What is the missing link in your life? Once you have done that, next is that it will help you look beyond your immediate life. At present, we might be bogged down by a lot of obstacles, a lot of problems, but once we learn to look beyond it, we will find that there is a rainbow of happiness waiting for us. I remember when I had just started my career as a counselor, there were a lot of incidents, there were a lot of situations that I was going through, and at times I myself was feeling very low. My supervisor told me one thing that, Aditi, what happens is we choose what window to open. If we constantly choose the window that has the rubbish bin outside, that has the broken road outside, that's going to make you feel like that. If every time you choose to open the window that opens to the trash can, that is your life. So at times you have to know that you have to close that window and open the other window that has the view of an amazing thing. Maybe the sunset or the sunrise. But at times we just forget to do that. So we have to be conscious about it. We have to be aware of it. We have to take control over things. And we have to remind ourselves to close that window that looks to the trash and open that window that looks to the garden. The last is forgiveness. Forgiveness is a very powerful tool. It not only frees you of the negative emotions such as anger, anxiety, hostility, depression, hatred, feeling of insecurity, enviousness, jealousy, but it also gives you the strength to be the person you are. Once you have set yourself free, once you've forgiven yourself, you will see the opportunities that wait for you. And don't just forgive yourself once. Do it again and again. Every time you need to forgive yourself, do it. Set yourself free. We all make mistakes, but that mistake doesn't define you. Look to the good things that you have done and try repeating that. Look beyond the 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 obvious bad that you see in your life, but try to focus in the good, in the purpose, in the meaning of your life that you want to achieve. So I would say one thing after all the strategies that I've described, that it's not that you practice all the strategies every day. You have to choose the strategy that fits your personality, that fits your style of life, that fits your goals, that fits your culture. That is very important, that you find the strategy that works for you and be consistent in practicing them. Answer the questions when you choose an activity, when you choose a strategy, find the answer to the questions like, do you think you would enjoy doing it? Do you think it will serve a meaning to you? Does it come naturally to you? It can't be forced. It has to come naturally to you. Does it come naturally to you? And if the answers are yes, that's the activity for you. That's the strategy for you. Indulge in it as much as you want, and you'll be happy. And this happiness is not something that is going to be a week or a year, but it is going to be with you for all your life. Now, I would conclude by saying that there are certain myths to happiness. The first is that I will become happy when I get married, I get the job, I get the next promotion, I buy a bigger house, I buy a bigger car. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Yes, definitely you'll be happy for certain points of your life, but it will not promise you the happiness that you are looking for. And the other good thing is that certain events can make us unhappy, true, but even that doesn't last long. If you're going through a very rough phase in your life, if you're feeling very down, this is also not going to last forever. You're surely going to adjust to it and bounce back. So, there are certain things that I would like you to take home with this webinar. That is the fact that people's happiness can and does change over life. At one point of time, our relationship with our partner means all about passion. Over time, it changes to compassion. The next is no life is without stress, adversity, or crisis. It's just how well we can cope with it. Our goal must be to speed up adaptation to negative elements and delay adaptation to positive stuff. Choose a life that is meaningful and gives you a purpose, a life that is greater than you yourself. Loneliness kills, and social connections are good for us. Anyone who has a supportive social cycle, a social circle, they are always seen to be more happier, more content, and more healthier. Good relationships keep us happy and healthy. It's not about the number of relationships in your life, it's about the quality of the relationship that you have. Do you have someone to hold you back when you feel low? Do you have someone to tell you that you are still the best? Do you have someone to show you the path and give you the hope when you feel that nothing is working for you? And I would end by saying that in this webinar, my idea was not to make you happier, but I tried to give you the right prepared mind to know where lies your happiness and where it doesn't. I hope you had a good time listening to this. I had a great experience in having such lovely audience, and thank you for taking part in this poll. So there are certain questions that you can go ahead, like would you like to improve your mental health by yoga, meditation, or by switching off to work? So you can answer in a yes or no through your Slido. And great, yeah. I would like to answer these questions. Would we be happy when we become fearless in life? So if you're having fear, what type of fear you have? I assume that you have fear of failing or fear of not being able to achieve what you want to achieve. So that comes from if you're avoiding something, or if you're having a negative self image. So the first thing is that if you can work on that, if you can have the trust in you that you will be able to be the person who you want to be, I'm sure it will give you happiness. What is the end of happiness? That's a very interesting question. It depends on you. The end of happiness could be anything, like you go to a shop and you buy a dress, you wear it to a party, and or you wear it with your friends and you come home and you just can throw that dress in some corner and never look back at it. And that's the end of the happiness that you felt while buying that dress. Or it could be the happiness of seeing your son successful, or it could be the success, the achievement. I wouldn't say success, but the achievement where you have always faced a certain negativity and you have come out of it winner. If that is the happiness that you choose, then there is no end to it. But if you're pinning your happiness on something that is superficial or materialistic, yes, there is an end to happiness. What what if the key to happiness has to go through all the pain, suffer, tortures, etc. beforehand? Would you still ask the person to seek for happiness? Yes. The pursuit of happiness is all that is there in our life. Just as I said, like if you ask any parent what they want for their child, be it someone from a war-torn country like Africa or Syria, even their answer would be, I want my children to be happy. And it is this pursuit that keeps us going. It is that pursuit that doesn't allow us to stop. Every day we wake up with the hope that today I'm going to make my life better, a life in which I am happy. So even if you have gone through pain, suffering, torture, today you are a stronger person because you have emerged out of it. Use that experience to build your own happiness. Look for what happiness you want and look for ways in which you can get it. I'm sure happiness is there for everyone. We just need to reach out and find the path to get it. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. And I hope you enjoyed the session as much as I have. Thank you for those brilliant questions. I enjoyed answering them. And I look forward to meeting you again in some other webinar with some more interesting topic. Have a good night.
Thank you, Aditi.
Thank
Before we conclude, we would like to ask everyone here to complete a post-session survey that we have sent out in the Zoom chat. So the purpose of the survey is to get a sense of what you thought of the webinar and to get your feedback on areas that we can improve on. Yeah, so it will take less than 2 minutes to complete. Yep, so other than that, thank you, Aditi, for the webinar, as well as thank you everyone for taking your time to attend this session. If you have any more questions for Aditi, like feel free to voice them out. Yeah, if not, we will conclude this session. Yep, thank you so much.
I don't think there will be a certificate of attendance, but still I would thank you for taking the time out and attending this webinar. Thank you, everybody, and I'll just end the webinar today. Have a good night.
Thank you, Aditi.
Bye.